let's go to ME51N and create a purchase requisition. Let us see how to determine a source for this particular purchase requisition. When you have purchase info record for a particular material, plant and vendor combination, and there is no source list available. Let us see how the system behaves when there are multiple purchase info records for a material, but there is no source list created. Then let us go and create a source list with two different vendors, but let us not assign any source as a fixed vendor, and then see how the system behaves. Then let us go and make one of the vendors as a fixed source in the source list, and then create a purchase requisition and see how the system behaves. So we will see three different scenarios in today's session, and let us start with the first session. So let us go to ME01 first and just ensure that there are no source list available for this particular material and plant combination. So material is 100-300, plant is 1000. So for this, there is no valid source list. The data is empty. There is no information available here. So let us come out of this transaction. Now let us go and create ME51N and check this source determination. Enter this material 100-300 and enter the quantity 10. Then enter the plant 1000 and click on enter. So if you see, when you go to the item detail screen under source of supply, the multiple vendors have been listed out. Okay, the multiple vendors that are listed out and their relevant purchase info record has been listed out. If you haven't any agreement with the vendor, then the agreement number and the item number also will get listed out. In our case, it is only the purchase info record. So the system doesn't know on who should be the assigned source of supply. So it lists all the vendors who have a valid info record so that the buyer can choose the relevant vendor and assign the fixed source of supply. Okay. So in our case, let us go and select this particular vendor 1000 as a fixed source of supply. When you click on 1000, you can see that this assigned source, the green checkbox appears. Okay. And if you look at the value, it is 225.3 USD. So let us look at the valuation and ensure that the relevant valuation is entered. 225.3 USD. $0.3 USD. Click on enter and go ahead and do a check and then a save. Okay, so we have created a purchase requisition, and for this particular material 100-300, there was only valid purchase info records, no source list. Now let us go and maintain the source list. So let us go to another session, go to ME01 and enter the material 100-300 and plant 1000. Click on enter and let us go ahead and maintain two different vendors here. So vendor 1000 and purchase of 1000, and then vendor, another vendor here, vendor 1002 and plant and purchase of 1000. Okay, so we are not selecting any vendor as a fixed vendor. So both the vendors, you can buy the material from both the vendors. So you can assign the source of supply and choose any one of the vendors. So let us go ahead and save and now see how the system behaves. So let us go ahead and create a purchase requisition again. So go to ME51N transaction, select the source determination, enter the material 100-300, enter the quantity 10 and the plant 1000. Now click on enter. Now we have maintained the source list with two different vendors, 1000 and 1002. Let us see what the system now proposes. So when you go to the source of supply, the system proposes the two vendors because the system doesn't know which vendor should be the fixed vendor. So it proposes two vendors because in your source list, you have not checked any vendor as a fixed source. Now, if you want to place the order on the first vendor, so select the first vendor and then do a check and then go ahead and save. Okay. Now let us look at another scenario. So let us go and create another session. Let us go to another scenario, ME01. And in this, for 100, 300 and planned 1000, let us go and make 1002 as a fixed vendor. So let us go and check this fixed vendor or a fixed source checkbox and go ahead and save it. Okay. Now, when you go to the create purchase requisition, select the source determination and enter the material 100, 300, then enter the quantity 10 and then the plant 1000. So once you enter all these details, let us see how the system behaves. Okay. So click on enter. And if you go to the source of supply, if you see the system has already picked 1002 as the fixed vendor because in the source list, you had gone and in the source list, if you go to ME01, you've gone to this particular vendor 1002 and clicked on fixed. So the system automatically knows that 1002 is the fixed vendor and has pulled in the relevant info record. So you can go and do a check and then go ahead and save this. Okay. Now let us look at another scenario. So let us go back here and have this unchecked. So now we have two different vendors who can supply the material. We don't have any fixed source. Okay. So let's go and save this. And let us go back to the purchase requisition and let us go ahead and create the purchase requisition once again. So go to material 100, 300 and enter the quantity 10 and the plant 1000. Okay. So when you do this into the plant 1000, come to source of supply, you have two different suppliers and they are supplying at two different prices, okay, and two different currencies. Suppose you want to know who is the supplier who's supplying at the least price, then you can click on this price simulation all. Okay, click on this price simulation all, and here you have the option to include cash discount, delivery cost, and effective price. So the system click on the green check, and the system will compute what is the least price by which the supplier can supply. So if you look at here, you have the purchase order column, you have the plant column and the vendor column. So vendor is 1000. So the vendor 1000 can supply the material at 2185.70 USD. The quantity of 10 numbers he can supply at 2185.70 USD. And the vendor 1002 can supply the same material at 3104 DEM. Okay. So now you can choose on which vendor you want to place the order. You want to place it on 1000 or 1002. So you can go back here and then choose one of the vendors on which you want to place or make the source as an assigned source of supply. So this vendor shows the least amount. So you can select this vendor 1000 and then have this as the assigned source. Then you can do a check and do a save. Okay. So in this session, we have seen how the system behaves when you have the only purchase info records and no source list. We've also seen how the system behaves when you have purchase info record, source list with two vendors, but no fixed vendor. We've also seen when you have purchase info record and source list one fixed vendor. And also when you have multiple vendors, how to do a price simulation. Thank you.